What is syntropy? What does
The
syntropy
main
mean
topic.
to us?
Let's try and define syntropy, seeing as it's such a word that can't even be found in the dictionary.
That is amazing.
Spooky.
Yeah,
I think that kind of says it all, doesn't it? I mean, if it's too powerful of a movement to be allowed to have that word enter the dictionary, there must be some power in that word. Because as we know, words are spells, huh?
When was the first time you heard the word syntropy?
I think it was when we had the workshop here, when we looked at the definition of entropy and then flipped it over to syntropy.
Yeah, I had heard the word syntropic for a few years, but it wasn't until last year that I really thought about syntropy as the opposition to entropy and what that meant. And it was funny because it just kind of hit me like a big spiral of flashbacks to all the times, you know, you've sat with the thoughts of what life is, what birth is, what death is, what consciousness is, quantum entanglement, all of these things that you can't really explain. And then that word syntropy, kind of explains it.
It's kind of the sum of all things, isn't it? Which is literally what it means.
Yeah, that's what I was talking to Alistair this morning about it. Like, what is there really anything truly in the universe that is entropy? Is it all not just syntropy? And where does that point happen where it becomes one or the other? Is it an observation, or is it a conscious thought?
And that's really interesting, because it seems to be that everywhere in society they're teaching entropy, right? When, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's actually should be the opposite. Everything is syntropy.
You're familiar with the Buddhist, and is it Buddhists that do reincarnation? Who does the reincarnation? You know, you live in this cycle of.
Oh, is it Hinduism?
Hindus, but also Buddhists, but I believe actually also Christianity, because the Bible talks about eternal life.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of been twisted to this entropic meaning.
Yeah. So the good and the evil, is entropy the evil, is good the syntropy? Well,
in all honesty, maybe it's even beyond that. Syntropy is just everything. You know, I these days I'm trying to move more and more away from black or white or where's that phone? Oh, somebody's ringing over there. You know, like maybe it is actually just everything.
Hey, honey.
I think so. I think it is. That's what Alistair and I were talking about this morning, about, you know, describe you know, active entropy to me, and his only thought that he could come to was the Big Bang. Before that, it was entropy, and then boom, it's entropy in all directions.
Yeah.
And then to me, I was thinking, you know, I was just reflecting on events in my life that have been, you know, major points where you get to choose whether you continue on the chaos or you go in the other direction, and it's complex. And thinking about how other people in my life who are experiencing the same problem, we separated and did go in the opposite directions. one, you know, living in that same repetitive, I can't think of the words I'm trying to say, but not growing at all, not growing at all, just staying stuck in that same cycle of grief, despair, anger, round and round and round. And at what point, what makes them stay there and what makes someone else, you know, shoot off and accelerate into a new path, take all that and use it as fuel to advance. Is that syntropy?
Huh. Maybe both are.
Mm.
You know, I'm not sure. It's complicated, but that's like, I was in lead up to this conversation, I was trying to think of syntropy, and for me, I always try to look at what's going on in the jungle. And me and Luca had this discussion before about hierarchy in the forest, and it just actually blew my mind, starting to think like, well, all these smaller species that are growing in the you know, understory of the forest and stuff, they are so important, but they seem unimportant. But I think even just the English language kind of creates this barrier where you have to say one's more important than the other. But syntropy actually envelops everything. And then it just hit me, it's just one word. I think we just need to shut up.
I was going to say that's a very inclusive way to use the term hierarchy. Yeah, I get you. I think my head goes to as well, with syntropy, how do we invite entropy to us or to the systems or to the conversation? Or is it something that we just kind of, because it's like that yin and yang, right? You have to have, the fact that we're talking about syntropy means that there's an abundance of entropy as well, or just entropy in general. So how do we incorporate that?
That's where I was kind of sitting with this morning and confused by the definition, the language again, because it's a matter of perspective.
It is. It is absolutely perspective. The further you zoom out, suddenly everything is syntropy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the flip side, depending on your own consciousness and your ability to perceive and understand that, you may see it as entropy.
Say that again?
Depending on the individual, depending on the observer, depending on the person who is witnessing the system, that may to them be perceived as entropy.
Right.
Look at, so for instance, think about how an average gardener, we won't even talk about a permaculture person, an average gardener would come into our systems and look at it and think, whoa, this is chaos. You've got eucalyptus in there and you're using pine mulch, and why are all those trees within 1 meter of each other? This is chaos. But to us, it's complexity, it's order, it's natural. Syntropy.
Community.
Yeah, it's interesting that like the the less lenses you have or the less perspectives you have, the more entropic you kind of feel or you are. But the more that we adapt, the more that we complexify, the more open we are to syntropy, like gratitude journals or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, if you look at a monoculture paddock, say a paddock full of corn, yeah, and then you look at a forest, I mean, this is only a very young system, but one looks awfully more like death than the other one. Me.
But it may look like order to someone else. It may look like it's organized.
Oh, for sure. But the universe is chaos, organized chaos, let's say.
So it's entropy, or is it syntropy?
To me, it's got to be Syntropy.
It's got to be Syntropy. But...
Gotta be Syntropy, baby.
It's just got to be.
Can
Got to be
anything
rooted in Syntropy.
can anything be unorganized?
This is where I
What
was
was that, Luke?
discussing this with Alistair. Yes, to him,
Yeah.
before the point of creation, it would have been just empty
Hmm.
nothingness.
What is it? It's hard to conceptualize nothingness.
Yeah, that's it.
Because like in music, the space between notes, there's so much relation there, and there's so much music in that space that it's
Yeah.
hard
Beautiful.
to
I love that.
visualize there's nothing in between there.
Yeah.
But it's
I
just hard for me
believe
to
if we had to
conceptualize.
truly look at a huge cyclical cycle, then you're right, Luke, that you know, and we're getting very theological here, but I guess before the Big Bang, that was a huge silence between the last bloody syntropic episode.
Oh, is that like the idea that the universe is expanding and contracting kind of thing? I wonder if it is contracting. How do we know it is contracting? It doesn't pulse out like a river, like a little echo in the water.
But I truly believe that if something is expanding, then it must have been contracting as well.
I like that energy. Unless it's like entropic, like the sun, where the sun just burns and pulsates heat. I don't know what's going with that.
And then it sucks into a black hole, doesn't it? Once it's gone.
Yeah, true.
Well, I haven't been on the sun, so I have no opinion. Truly.
Yeah, I don't know shit about it.
But yeah, I just find the more that I've been thinking about these concepts, that what you're saying about Hinduism, Buddhism, like it's actually what's the word I'm looking for? All-encompassing, and I can't really find anywhere that I look that where syntropy isn't actually happening alongside entropy.
It is the life machine, and while there is life, it is in abundance.
Yeah.
Let's think about like maybe a place, maybe like the moon, where there's nothing, or maybe like even the deserts have something. Even the deserts have life. Trying to think somewhere where there is no life.
And what is life restricted to when we say that word? Like, is it restricted to?
Yeah, because there's still light, and there's light to life.
Yeah, and that, as long as it's operating at some sort of frequency, then there must be some sort of consciousness to it, or like relationship to it, or some sort of something tangible that it's got going on. Nothing just exists in isolation. No such thing as random. That kind of.
That's where I come back to every time. Every time I sit with this thought, it's all comes back to consciousness. Yeah. And if you believe in universal consciousness, if you believe that it exists outside of ourselves, then it is innate within the universe, then it is everywhere.
Yeah.
The God molecule.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about psychedelics. It can kind of get you into that thinking realm, or get you looking behind that curtain and going, there's more to than what I just see with it.
Yeah.
In this kind of.
We're limited by, the dimensions that we're in. And I feel like once we were there before we were born, as we were being born, and when we die, I think we that curtain is lifted again, and we are able to experience far more than we are here.
Terence McKenna would talk of, not that he would talk, I don't know. He wrote in this book of us being like this energy kind of like if you picture it like an ocean, and we're just like a blip that's popped up, and we're just viewing itself. I think Alan Watts said you're an aperture through which the universe is looking at and observing itself. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like we're just that consciousness and ebb and flow, energy being transmitted into different kind of forms. I don't know. I wonder if we get to dictate a certain amount of that. Like, do we get to choose? Do we choose our human form? Did we choose to, or is there just like some sort of conveyor belt that like this is just the natural way things move? Do we have answers to this? Do we just Joe
ChatGPT.
Rogan's got like that guy
Yeah,
next to him.
Alistair
And he's just,
talks about it as a soul machine, the universe as a soul machine, and it spits out what is required at the time. And I've heard people talking about it when it comes to other life forms, you know, actually farming humans, and humans being an energy that is being farmed by the universe. I'm not articulate enough to
no, I can
recall
picture
exactly.
that. Though.
Yeah.
No, I love all those
I
abstract
like
thinking.
what you were saying, Luke, about, you know, like, is everything destined? I have no idea. All I have is hindsight, right? And I know in hindsight, when I look back, I go, oh shit, that happened because that happened, because that happened, blah, blah. And I can sometimes have a pretty clear view of how things happen behind me. And then you think it might be destined. But then I also have a very clear realization of how I can consciously like shape today and like shape my future.
Yeah. I don't think
And
it's
that's
destined.
those two things are so contradictory, but it's like, holy fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally, I get what you're saying.
I think on the quantum level with everything, there is that, like, once you've observed, it will collapse and take one or two directions. So that conscious thought, that conscious choice on the wave can't be destined.
Yeah. I think what
Can't be, because it's so fluid.
Yeah.
And you can feel yourself interacting with it sometimes.
Yeah. Kind of like that scene in Donnie Darko. Do you remember that? When he has this trail of energy comes from his chest and he gets up and he starts following it. But that's like his kind of destiny, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the context. But I wonder if we have, like, if our free will is kind of, I don't want to use the word confined, but that's kind of what's coming to mind. Kind of like when you're bowling down a bowling lane and you have the bumpers up. So like you have free will in between this area. It's not like you can turn around and start throwing balls at the counter or throwing balls at people behind you. So I wonder if there's some sort of containment. You remember when we were in Costa Rica, Short, and that guy who owned Tiramore was talking about the upward spiral and how people would be in a category of like, what was it, like
Different
teal?
levels.
Teal was the top one, but it went from like green, gold, red, teal, or something like that. And
Well,
he said,
I definitely believe that as you sort of your own, all I can say is what I've experienced, yeah. And I think that as I hate to use that word, consciously evolve, but as you become more aware of certain things, you wouldn't do certain things anymore, right? You wouldn't go around consciously trying to hurt somebody when you've learned that lesson. Oh, that's actually not a very nice thing to do. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help that person. So you try your best not to do that again. So I don't think you can really take huge leaps backwards. So perhaps your options become less, or maybe they become even huger because suddenly, I don't know.
Well, that's because we live within the construct of our society that we've built, where there's morals, there's right and wrong, there's laws, there's rules, there's social norms, there's cultural norms. But let's just say anarchy, true anarchy, entropy hits and all of that collapses. What happens? People would start behaving in that manner that you're talking about because they'll be looking out for number one.
that like that scarcity mindset is we're still operating from that place of
We would be
fear,
less
not
about
love.
community. It'd be more about
Yes.
we've
Yeah.
got to survive. And
Yeah.
the initial thoughts
Yes.
for that would be at an individual level, not at a community level.
Yeah.
Because
That's
of fear.
beautiful, because like rules do sort of keep you in line and keep things flowing. But a little example, today I was in town and I was driving and my wife was the passenger, and she's a terrible passenger driver. And I was coming around this corner and this dude was supposed to give way to me, but the traffic was flowing in such a way that it was way easier for me to just let him go and carry on at the same speed behind him. And my wife was like, "Hey, he's supposed to let you go." And I was like, "Yeah, but it just keeps things flowing if I let him in front of me." And I guess that's the sort of rules do keep you in line, but sometimes they have to be bent in anarchy, in an anarchistic way, to simplify things or make things flow
To
better.
keep things flowing, yeah, to keep things progressing, to keep things accelerating. Totally. And that's where we're stuck now as a society. We've created this bureaucratic rules everywhere, all these laws, and it's no longer streamlining processes. It's holding up innovation. It's holding up advancement. It's holding up evolution.
And it's too politically correct. It's like, oh my God, I got to think real hard. If I do this, am I going to offend somebody? Oh no, I better just wait for the traffic light to go green, even though there's no cars. But, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas we do have laws. I mean, the laws of nature, and they work. If you're thinking about our forest systems, there are clear laws occurring if you know where to look, if you're observing correctly.
Absolutely.
It is organized chaos. It's complexity.
And they're very powerful.
The difference between that and what we have created, our structures, our human structures, is ego would be the defining difference. And that is at an individual level instead of a community level, whereas the plants and the trees, although we did talk about this outside of this space, but they are discriminating. They are looking out for themselves, but they're also looking out for those around them.
Yeah. Like, it's wild. I wonder if I'm just privileged to have this thought on the back of people already doing it, but people who came to Australia and just thought it was their right to colonize. And the way that they did, it's like, how do you think, like me, I wouldn't, if I rocked up to someone's land that I found, you'd introduce yourself, create a relationship, and you probably would do your best not to abuse any of it, or not to disrespect people or systems or step a foot out of line. But we just went the complete opposite direction and just absolutely slaughtered, pillaged.
I think it's in that sense of kill or be killed. Do you think that and obviously I'm just playing devil's advocate, I don't agree with this at all, but do you think that when they rocked up that they were welcomed?
Well, I'm not too sure. Maybe it wouldn't be welcomed.
I don't think it even matters, because the people that rocked up had this thing implanted in them that they were more powerful and they were better.
They were discovering.
And they needed,
yes.
Yeah, you know, this whole thing of like, hey, we're better, so you guys need to move on. An entropic thought.
Yeah. I mean, if you can disgrace other people like that, imagine what you're capable of doing to yourself. Like, it's always that, 3 fingers pointing back kind of scenario.
Well, I mean, trying to imagine what they left in order to do that and why they would have in the first place thought that was necessary.
Yeah, true.
And I know, for instance, a lot of the people who did come and colonize, they were doing so out of duress. They were prisoners, or they were extremely impoverished. And this was a chance for them to advance. And so it's as awful as it is, you can see it from that perspective. Obviously, there were powerful people who were taking advantage of that fact to grab land, to grab resources.
Mhm.
But let's bring it back to the forest, right? If there's an old grandfather tree and there's younger ones growing around it, at what stage are the young trees aware, and is the old tree aware that it's dying? And at what stage are they actually in communication about this? We don't really know. They're definitely helping each other because the old one's dying and it's going to fall over and let the young ones grow. But are they possibly even at a higher level in communication, and has that already been chosen, or are they in communication with each other about the fact that you're now eating my root system, thank you very much, that's great.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, there's lots of instances where they've found trees that look like they're dying or look like they're dead, and they're just a stump, but they're still alive.
That's exactly what I mean, you know.
Yeah.
And they're in communication underground, you know. Whereas, to bring it back to the colonization, we just came in and go, right, you're being chopped down, bugger off, move away, we're better.
Yeah.
You need to invade this space. It's such an entropic thought, whereas the jungle is always in syntropy, you know. And I'd love to research how far they are actually conscious of what's going on, these trees.
Mhm.
So I don't know too much about it, but let's think about like the climatic events that have happened, the catastrophic events that have happened in the past that have led to places like the Sahara no longer being a jungle. And that was a natural event. And whether it happened immediately or over a certain amount of time, that was caused by what? The trees all disappeared because of what?
Yeah, I don't actually know. I want to know.
And so I think a lot of it is like ice ages and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I would like to think that it's a natural cyclic entropic event, which is part of a larger syntropic thing. But
like a reset, like a massive reset.
Yeah.
yeah, but there's also many theories going around some kind of nuclear event. I guess, yeah, we don't really know.
Yeah.
There's just so many theories. What do you think,
Mm.
India?
Yeah, I think if we view the earth as its own system, is it consciously creating the conditions? So how is that organized? How is that whole system organized? Whereas for at one point in time, there can be an ice age that wipes out all of the life for however many thousands of years, and then again warms and all the life returns in a different way. I don't understand.
I think what comes to my mind is when the planet was kind of formed and it was just taking all this impact and it was morphing and stuff, like there's like a Goldilocks zone for us to exist in. And while the planet's still balancing, it's like, whoa, before I come here and I can sustain this more sustainably. And we're just a part of the ebb and flow at the moment. Wonder if that's what that looks like. That's what came to mind.
Or perhaps this reset, which may have occurred in the past, could have been prevented if the ecosystem had been kept in balance better. Like right now, what we're experiencing quite clearly is, you know, are we going to destroy this planet further, or are we going to bring it back into a natural ecosystem?
So who was the entropic?
I think that it is not up to us, no matter what we do. Either way,
probably not.
The planet is its own.
Interesting.
I think it is its own conscious entity.
But can we interact in a surely we can interact in a positive way to, I mean, with all our big brains and
Okay, but
our
let me.
consciousness.
What do you think they were doing 14,000 years ago when the Younger Dryas impact occurred that created that last ice age? They weren't. I mean, maybe they were doing something that was needing that reset.
Yeah, like who was the function for the entropic? Who was the large entropic system before, like to facilitate that? Yeah.
Or was it the sun? Was there like a? I'm sure there's
Ooh,
actual
I like that.
geological or what's the word? There's probably a reason for that. Maybe a solar
Yeah,
flare or some kind of.
I like that.
Or
No,
was there a civilization which, like us, began to behave a little bit too entropic and
And just
destructive? You know, I don't know. There are definite signs of, you know, buried cities and things
yeah.
that are being kept very hidden,
Hmm.
but
lizard
they're
people.
there.
Yeah,
And
we're gonna call
because
back under.
they don't have I suppose now with our civilization, because of our technology, that we've created plastics and we've created things that don't degrade, when it happens to us and the next civilization to uncover it all, they will find more evidence. But our
Ah,
evidence is quite often you know, carbon or things that
Yeah.
have degraded. So it makes it easier for them to deny that it's occurred.
this is adding layers onto my already complex traumas. Now I'm just like, what does the earth expect of me? Fuck, I don't know, man.
I think it's like it just kind of relieves any pressure on yourself because, and this could be perceived by some as entropic or some as syntropic. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. None of it matters. You're not in control.
Yeah,
Surrender.
I like that. Yeah, always comes down to breathing and surrender, right?
I like that in many ways, but I also think, you know, we can definitely consciously try our best to be, yeah, even that word, our best, it's actually really quite a ego-based word. We can try to consciously move in the most
Intentional.
balanced way
Yeah.
forward.
I think
That
like the
kind of,
more intention. Yeah, no, I get you. I think the more attention you pay to something, the more intention you're going to give it as well, and that's just going to accumulate once you get. Yeah.
which comes down to making food forests.
Are you saying that, Short, because you believe that it matters your energy fingerprint, let's say, whether it's good or bad, matters in the grand scheme of things afterwards, or
Well, there you go, because it kind of goes against what I was saying before, that, you know, there is no good and bad, and there is no. But I do believe that in the greater scheme of things, we're all trying to, in this collective consciousness, behave in a more aware way.
and I think that probably to come up with a way that makes sense to me is like the laws of attraction. And if
Yeah,
you are
nature does it.
living in that space where you are prospering and you're allowing others around you to do so as well, then more will come to you.
And isn't it a natural thing? Like, if we feel good and we have these hormones that are being created in our brain, it makes us feel good when we do good things for other people. Like, isn't that sort of pushing us towards doing that more? Like, it would make sense to do that more, right? I mean, shit, makes us feel good, makes others feel good, rather than doing things that harm people and make us feel bad. And if you're really going to bring in the old karmic laws and stuff, then it's like, hey man, I can do stuff now that's going to help me in my next life.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, I think just do the best you can with every moment, right? Even though I really don't like that word.
Yeah, it's
Best.
interesting because I'm trying to think of, people who may believe they are doing best. And you can see from a different perspective that really they're more leaning into that ego and more leaning into that selfishness. It's not really selfless at all. It's not really helping, but for them it is. It's a matter of perception.
That's really beautiful. Like, I mean, can you help a drug addict that's on a self-destructive path? Can you really help them? Not really, but you can do better yourself and be an example, possibly.
Yeah, or let there as support. Yes.
And then there's you can take that to much higher levels with these governments that are making very horrible decisions. Are they aware?
Yeah, what do you think that's about? Do you think it's like we talk about Syntropy as a life engine or a life machine? Do you think that it's just got the momentum now of this, the way things are moving within the governments, that it can't stop, that it's just like caught up and going, and because you can't think that they sit there and they look around them and think this is actually, how can they sit there and think that this is going well? How it's not going well.
Yeah.
But to them it must be, because they're continuing to, I mean, across the world now, the pattern is very similar in Western countries with these democratic political.
I think they're very much based on monetary values
and ego, right?
And ego, yeah.
And ego. So for them, it seems to be going okay, and it's cyclical. And as long as we make more money next time.
Is that because they're just out of touch with, or they're in their own echo chambers, because they're not actually getting out into the world? They're just stuck in their little tribes.
Yeah, true. Kind of like how we're in the pioneers and it seemed like nothing else existed.
Yeah.
We can't do it without you. Kind of thing. Yeah, I can see that. How they just plugged into that system and that game and that role, and they're just wearing that character hat like so well because they're just so everything.
But on the flip side of that, if those governments and those whatever people in power or whatever weren't making those decisions, I wouldn't be able to realize, oh shit, there's a better way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Like with every yin, there has to be a black dot. And maybe I'm on the wrong side. Who the fuck knows?
I just think it's unfortunate that we have to
They definitely work together, don't they? I mean,
yeah.
If Beavis and Butthead said that really well, Beavis, you can't have stuff that's cool if you don't have stuff that sucks. And like it really is true.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just unfortunate that we have to learn the lesson this way and to this much detriment, or maybe that's what it takes for our society, for our species to move forward and to reconnect. Not that we've ever been disconnected, but just through one thing or another. I think that it's
because there's this illusion of power and this power dynamic that we are unable to make change, or we're unable to do what we truly believe is right, to progress in ways that it benefits, the human race, not just the corporations. I feel I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, but I think I get where you're going. But I think it does. They do walk hand in hand somehow.
Yeah.
To a certain stage.
It's like we've created this new organism. Which probably always existed, because we always traded resources. If it wasn't money, it was spices, it was salt, it was whatever.
Yeah.
But this is now kind of out of our control. They've become their own machine.
And that's perhaps where we could turn it around. Like, money doesn't have to be bad.
Money's not bad. No,
It's not.
it's not bad. It's progress for progress sake that's bad. There's no there's no cutting back. There's no maintenance. There's no pruning.
No intervention there.
There is no intervention there, no. Unless it's at the expense of the other people whose money they're trying to get.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, because it's not a finite resource. Because it's actually made up. It's not real. It's not real anymore. It used to be real when it was a gold standard, but it's not real anymore.
Like, what if we just stop believing it?
Well, I think people are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I think people are waking up to it, but it's quite funny. I've just been watching this show about hedge funds and investment bankers and watching them sink other nations' currencies because they start to decide they're going to, not follow the US dollar anymore. They're going to go back to a gold standard where they're going. And then what happens? They get invaded.
No shit.
Assimilate or die.
So, I mean, currently I think, and a lot of people this is where a lot of people are in a different mindset, is I'm actually quite excited. I think we're at a tipping point. I think we really are at a collective awakening, and it's going to be gnarly. It's going to be bloody gnarly, and a lot of people are going to lose out. But a lot of people are losing out now. It's an illusion. We're all, especially in cities, and maybe you can talk to that, Luke. I mean, I escaped it, so I know that now that I go back and I sit there and I even just driving down a highway, there's no reason why the lights should be turning red, but they're turning red. And why are they turning red? Because they want to control us. They want to control the flow of energy.
Yeah, man. They want you in the traffic jam.
You're just using up your time. You're using up your
time.
They want you
to
all of a
come
sudden
home
you're 65.
so fed up that you'll just turn on the boob tube, sit down with the six-pack, and shut the fuck up. Get up the next day, do the same shit.
Don't ask questions.
You can't, because you're so stressed, because you are so tired, because you're constantly caught. That's entropy.
And because it looks so much bigger than you that you cannot possibly make a change. And when you have your own little bit of land and you can be empowered by growing your own food, holy moly, that makes a change.
Oh, I can't wait to experience that. I feel like we're just so crammed in here, and then we're just not given like good ethical frameworks, so we're not encouraged to act in a certain way, or there's like, what's the reward, or it's just so hard to find that energy too when you're just spending it. You don't have like a system to spend it efficiently, you're just kind of at the whim of everyone else.
Also, we were talking about this yesterday, Sean, and I'm not going to bring it into 5G or anything like that, but like actually that energy that is in a city, that constant hum, the fact you can't see the stars anymore, you are surrounded by light pollution, that keeps you in this, like, your shoulders are up here constantly.
You're so far removed from your natural being. For instance, just, like my physiotherapist taught me this when I was recovering from a terrible accident. Like, the sitting position is probably the worst position a human being's body can be in. It's completely unnatural. It's a position we would never have been in the bush. Like, everything you do in the city, just about everything, is so far removed from how you should be living that I don't know, it fucks with you.
It does.
In every way.
It is entropy.
You just get your 20 minutes of forest bathing and you're fine.
Oh, it can make such a difference.
I know, like, I actually totally
cans of fresh air.
It just means that.
Do you know what? I mean, when I was there, I had to be medicated constantly. Not when I went up this last weekend, but when I lived in the city, I truly believe that was the root. Like, that was the reason I was self-medicating with so many drugs. I could not live in that reality. I couldn't function in that reality. That day to day, every day, getting up to go to that job that you hate. to sit
And
at
you can
his
see the
desk.
people caught in it, eh? And you're like,
Yeah.
because you're an empathetic person, you want to like help them. You want to like, oh, but you're like, how? Oh, there's no way out of this. I've got to join in. I've got to sit on that conveyor belt.
But is that our own ego now talking? Because I have this conversation with friends, let's say, for instance, a lot of my generation are not having children, and they don't believe that you need to have children to live a full and rewarding life. And I used to think that too before I had children. but they've been given this idea that the career is worth it all.
Yeah.
And it's not real. Is it real?
Again, bring it back to nature, man. We are built to reproduce. We're built to feel good. Yeah, and you know how great a child makes you feel.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, you need that reset. You need that change of pace in your life, and that is major. You're a whole different person after you have a child. Everything changes. Your whole world flips upside down. That is something that I feel like the people who aren't having children are really missing out on. They get stuck in that grind, and all of a sudden they're 65 and they have to retire. And what have they got?
I mean, what on earth could be more entropic, right, than not having a child? Like you're stopping your own bloodline. You're stopping your own. Holy shit! Yeah, bizarre, isn't it? It's like, and I used to think that way. I really used to think that way. Like, man, maybe I shouldn't be having children. Like,
same. The world doesn't need more. Like, why am I bringing more children into this shitty world? Or we're overpopulated. And then you realize all of that is just a lie as well. We're not overpopulated at all.
Yeah.
My son had to come by accident. Otherwise, I would never have awoken to the fact that, it's actually really awesome and it's important.
Yeah. No, I did a massive dose of mushrooms, and it told me, hey, if you don't do something different, you're going to be dead. Or dead anyway, because what is there to live for if all you do every week is Monday to Friday working a job you fucking hate, then to get out, buy $1,000 worth of drugs and do them all weekend and then go back to work again. Like,
yeah.
That was my 20s.
And then there's lots of people, who aren't doing those sort of drugs, but they're doing the ones that they get over the counter because the doctors told them, hey, look, you're not having so much fun in your life in the city. Well, you should be taking these. You'll be able to cope better. It's okay. And then you take this one to fall asleep, and then you take this one because your liver's fucked. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
And again, we're just masking symptoms just so we appear healthy.
Yeah, man.
Or that we can just get through. That's not really what health is.
That's a cool little topic there about overpopulation, because everybody's sort of almost being forced into these cities.
Yeah.
Because that's where the work is, that's where they can do the career, that's where blah blah blah. But actually I've seen some studies that there's actually shit tons of land out there, and we could all easily be having a couple of hectares and living our own lives and having smaller communities.
100%. That's what I was sitting with when I was trying to define, synarchy and how that could look in our society as a political framework, as a social construct, and how Alistair is working this job for a white collar corporation where you would traditionally believe that he must have to be in the city to do it. And we all thought that until COVID. And then it was shown. It was they lifted the curtain and showed us we didn't need to. It was them. And then funnily enough, they shut it again and people forgot. You don't need to be in the office.
Yeah.
Elon Musk has made it very easy for us to be out here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, everyone hates him.
I reckon, like, in some contexts, we might be overpopulated. Like, if we want.
Yeah, it's unsustainable what they're doing in cities. That is overpopulated.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that living that way, it's like having that mentality is overpopulated, but we're not overpopulated itself. If you want to live off Skittles and live off fucking everything that's processed, well then yeah, the world can't sustain that. But that's not the life that we should be living. It's not what we're drawn to, I don't believe. It's one of those easy routes, autopilot. You can just slip into that bullshit if you're not aware, or if you haven't had a red pill moment, or blue pill. Which pill is it?
Red.
It is red. Okay, cool.
It is red. Yeah.
Never had a red pill
I
moment.
love that,
Okay,
Luke.
let me just ask this. When was your red pill moment?
Oh, it was via veganism. It was when I went down there and I realized that got me into health, like about diet and nutrition, about understanding micronutrients. And it got me into factory farms and where our resources came from initially, because I just didn't give a shit. I just had no aware of it. And then through veganism, just ping ponged around being curious why things are why. Now I'm out of that cult. It's yes, I really understand it. Like I'm just zoomed out way further than I thought I could. And I can't wait to say that again in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, there's multiple times you take the pill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, you know, like what you're saying, Luke, is like we're built for it. Well, our entire mechanism, especially this thing up here, it runs on chemicals, man. You know, and when we're doing things that are in line with, I don't know, maybe our higher being, or I don't know what to call it, man, but we feel good.
Yeah.
So it's in our instinctive nature to drive us to evolve.
To complexify.
See, but now they've created synthetic versions of these chemicals whereby you don't need to evolve. You can sit in front of your computer and you can play a game for 24 hours. Fuck, I used to play World of Warcraft for days on end. And that was the best. But you know what? It was great because I met my husband and we played it together and then we got out of that together.
Yeah.
Really? Is that how you met?
We met a few different ways. We met a few different ways, yeah. Which is funny because
but there you go.
It leads
That
you to
shows it
believe.
again.
Yeah. Sorry, go.
No, you go. You're telling something.
It just makes me think about that conversation we're talking about design, because a lot of things had to like slot into place for us to be where we are. But you could see that it was always a possibility when you look back in hindsight, and you could always see it was a possibility. And it took a collapse. It took my partner dying for us to reconnect. But it would never have happened if that one thing didn't occur.
Yeah.
Wow. And there you go. You know, and it just shows it that everything needs to be a syntropic environment of so-called good and bad flowing together in order for events to occur and for people to take certain steps and turns in their life.
Yeah.
Or not.
Exactly right.
Because all these layers, they all need to be there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder how we
On
kind
that
of
note,
initiate. Yeah.
What time are we
Yeah,
running?
we did an hour. That was an hour.
Wow, that flowed quick, eh?
All right, I'm just going to pause it or stop it, and then we can pick it up again. Stop recording.